Yep, chap, when these things are starting to heat up. Yep, they sure are going to start. Yeah. Okay, I was just doing a number of experiments today. I'm going to take some sand in that later on, and I'm going to put some egg yolk into the sand because egg yolk appears to be a reducing protein, a protein that can reduce things, can reduce copper. So if you're reducing copper, then you yourself should be being oxidized, or in other words, rusted in a way, or being burnt in a way, if you want to put it into basic chemical terms like that. I don't know if that's helpfully descriptive, but it might get you the other thing I want to do, been having a little chat with Gildio over in Italy, and he's thinking, reckon he's got a few experiments up his sleeve, and I'm thinking, well, is this what he's thinking? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all take out one of these smaller pieces out here, or just a little piece. So we might want to save it, because otherwise, it takes a week or so to, maybe take a piece here. I'm going to put some into some ammonia. I just want to see if we get the cuprous ammonium thing back or not at all. Well, not straight away anyway, by the looks of it. But whether it will turn the water blue or not, I think it's starting to go. If it's going to go that nice dark blue on the outside, I think it's going to go there eventually. So I'll just check that ammonia still smells. Yeah, it's still strong. So yeah. Okay. Just wash my hands. Right. Okay, the next stage, what I want to do. Oh yes, it's going now. Can you see that? There you go. So yep. Still reactive even when it's stuck to the meat, throughout the meat. The next stage I want to do is I want to slice this into pieces, if I can, if it's possible, into nice thin slivers, if that is at all possible. I want to, if I can, slice this into thin slivers with this. I probably need a scalpel to do this, whether I can do this or not. It may actually be easier just to actually break it open. Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. But what I want to do, as I'll show you, is, whoops, yeah, it's a trouble sometimes. I'm going to try and find a spot here somewhere and put it on a brick, if I can find it somewhere. Okay, that's better. So we're just going. I'm going to find a spot somewhere down here. Maybe I need more than one. I'm just going to try and tease it. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to bash it with the basher, don't I, or something like that. Yeah. Well, actually, I can probably tease it out with my fingers or thing. Tease it out so we've got a nice flat surface. Yeah. On there. So it's a nice nitrogen protein source, but it's in like a soil baking state because the copper 2 is sort of toxic in a way. But if it gets reduced down to copper 1, which is green, one, it's usually not toxic, as I found out in the past. But secondly, it's very soluble, so it can be flushed out of the material. So if the plant makes it into copper 1, it can be washed out just by rain once it's been, if it's in the soil, or it can be transported through the plant, sort of thing, and maybe transported to older leaves that then die off, and then the copper goes back into the environment in a way. So I just put some there, and what I'm going to do is either I'm going to put probably a leaf cutting and maybe some seeds on this, maybe cover them with some seeds and some leaf cutting or something, and we might get a response, because basically, now I'll just take this off and so you can get a nice close up. So I've put one in there, I don't know how close we can get, and I've put 2 in there. If it works, or we get an idea that it's working, well, maybe I'll get a whole chicken breast and put it in a little bath or vat and get a big slab of it. And maybe what I'll do is I'll slice it thinly before I put it into the vat, so we have a nice big flat sheet of meat, and go from there. Anyway, these are settling in quite nicely. It's amazing how quickly they seem to settle in. And as I said, you rip the roots apart and they're not even wilting, and I'm thinking, yeah, what is the state of horticulture these days? You know, you buy the stuff. Stuff from the shop these days is never that easy. You know, if you damage the roots, you're worrying about wilting and all this crap. Look at this. Ripped it out of the pot, shoved it in. I mean, it's sturdy as anything, no wilting. And these plants are notorious for things like that, wilting and things like that. But anyway, I put this this little young sort of plant in there, similar to the one over there. I just want to see if it does something similar to the one over there. That's, at the moment, no smell. We'll give it 4 days. We'll see if there's any odour. But I don't think there's going to be an odour problem, fellas, with the reductive protein, because egg peas be a reductive protein. Now, in a nutshell, thumbnail sketch, what I think is going on, this is my sort of hypothesis now in a thumbnail sketch, is these plants are, according to Stahl, are glycophytes. So this bloke from back early last century did work on these plants. He found, basically, if you look in Alfred Hall's book, he mentions the work of Stahl, and apparently had a really good reading of it. He was very good, he could read his German really well. And basically Stahl found they have very little ash content, and they're basically glycophytes. In other words, they fill themselves up with glucose, which is a reducing sugar. Do you see the parallel now between glucose, which is a reducing sugar, and our reductive egg, which is like a reductive protein, and probably with our rhubarb, which has oxalic acid, is oxalic acid a reducing organic compound? Does it reduce things? If it does, we can see there's direct parallels. And what about horseradish? What does it have in its leaves, and are they reducing compounds? Now, these are all apparently all salt tolerant, as I've worked out. Things like Capensis, 11 grams to the litre of potassium amended salt, 22 grams for your cephalotus, up to your Sarracenia, which is seawater tolerant, 33 grams to the litre, around about there. And so where are they getting the potassium from that? Probably from the insects, because there's this critical sodium potassium ratio, and also they may have target species or insects, maybe things like inch ants and things like that, which are on the scale. If you take the Darwin sort of idea, the size of the trap and shape of the trap should match the actual target species organism. Is there an inch ant, a meat-eating inch ant or something like that out there in the environment that perfectly fits into the size, the average standard size of a trap, which is 3.25 inches, of course. If you realise that what people tell you and what you've seen matches the figures in the paper, if you realise that there's been a mistake with the centimetres and inches, because in one part of the paper they have the inches mentioned, and another part of the paper they have centimetres. Everyone thinks that the inches is a mistake. No, I think the centimetres is a mistake, because I've actually spoken to people online who talk about that size. I've actually seen plants that have been ripped out of the wild of that sort of size. So, I've seen it, evidence with my own eyes, and they did have this sort of weird, washed out look, like the chlorophyll greener grass had been mixed by toothpaste, which is somewhere along the lines of horseradish and the way they grow tobacco, which also grows on these coastal plain poor soils. You're starting to see connections here, dots being connected, general trends coming together, and a basic hypothesis of what these plants are doing and how they're related to these other groups of plants, which you should equally be able to grow very well, very quick and very easily. Okay? You see, it's all coming together. So basically, hypothesis, they're probably eating insects for the potassium so they can cope with the salt. And there's like a seesaw between sugar content and salt content, and ability to actually withstand salt and things. The organics always twice as much as the salt, so if you can handle 33 grams to the litre of potassium amended salt, it can handle 66 grams of glucose in its metabolism. That's a lot of glucose to be able to have a lot of reducing power to reduce soil bacon. And of course the key point is peat, sphagnum peats and related peats like that always seem to have the highest micronutrient of those materials is copper. And CPs aren't supposed to like copper. But if you can reduce it from the blue, the deadly blue form, which keeps, in quotes, the soil bacon or the peat in a nice locked up form, then you can reduce it to the green, non-toxic, very soluble form. Then you have access to all that nitrogen, which is your main key element for growth in all plants. That's what all the books say. Nitrogen is the key macronutrient of all plant growth. That's what they say. Whether it's strictly totally true, but there you go. So we're just trying to tie everything into what the books say, where they grow, how big, how fast, how colourful, and can we actually then use the power of science and the scientific method and actually bring them into line with all other plants of horticulture. Once you know what's going on, you can improve on it, because Mother Nature can't tweak all the variables. We can. So then can we grow them bigger, faster and more colourful than they do in the wild. So you whack it in a pot here and you have a really fast growing plant that you can actually see growing, pulsating with growth. Every time you water, you can see a bit more growth, a centimetre a day or even more, you know. So you can actually start on a graph, predicting how big your plant's going to get week by week by week, and you can see it, and how dark the plant ought to go in colour. That's what the scientific method is all about. And you get to the predictive end of the learning curve sort of thing, and the scientific method, That's where we're heading, I think, with fellas. So, I'm pretty amazed how easily just whack these in. They're not wilting or anything like that. And, I've really tore into the roots and things like that. And you think, why is it so easy? Because I think we're getting to that end of the learning curve when everything falls into place. The last piece of the jigsaw goes in and everything just goes tickety-boo. Yeah. And all the daggers and knives are going to come out, I can tell you that, fellas, because, what has been going on in horticulture in the last, 150 maybe, since the dawn of CPs, I suppose, in literature and things like that. Did someone get it wrong, totally ballsed up, or was it purposely perverted over time, Did someone spot there was a mistake, but no, we'll keep it all stum and we'll start making money for jam out of all this sort of thing, and then start sending other people off in wrong directions and things like that. Is that what it's all about? But we can actually go back through history and find out if people did misdirect other people. And I think that's why the daggers are going to come out, because people will realise with this knowledge, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to go back through all the old books and papers and say, that person said this, and they're really, we think, pushing them off, trying to push people away from the truth. Okay, over and out, I think. It's a long clip, but I think it's worth it. Okay, we'll see what happens.